What's up, guys?
We're live.
Today's episode is brought to you by Merrick Health. Did I get that right?
Yes, you
Sure
did.
did.
I nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Merrick Health, they're a premium telehealth clinic that provides customized and competitive treatment plans for HRT, TRT, hair loss, sexual enhancement, metabolic health, harm reduction, and cognition, and more.
Sexual enhancement.
Sexual enhancement, they're going to get
Oh.
that right. Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
what?
Oh, go ahead.
No, they say, but what if I don't know exactly what lab I want to get?
That's why we have the Power Project panel, which is
Oh my
26
gosh.
different labs that have been vetted by
Hmm.
people we know, but also Derek More Plates, More Dates. And
Yes.
there's a male and female panel that can tell you exactly what you need to test. But also, they have a doctor within their clinics that will send you a whole written review on what labs you got, maybe deficiencies you have, ways that you can fix those through your nutrition, supplementation, or potentially HRT interventions. Take all the work out of your hands.
Yeah, it's great to have experts,
Mhm.
you know, overlooking your blood work, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to help you interpret it, and hopefully you can implement some lifestyle changes that will help get your hormones head in the right direction. We've had many people on the show, and we have many people that ask questions like, "Oh man, I think my thyroid is wrecked, and I think my T is real low. I don't feel the same as I used to," and there's really no great way of knowing unless you get your blood work done. So go to Merrick Health and check it out.
Yes.
One more thing, they don't do cookie cutter plans, man. Like one thing you hear about a lot of these clinics is that they'll just say, "Oh, you do this, boom, boom. Here's the thing," and they give that same thing to everyone, despite all of everyone's levels being different. So they don't do that. They do it based off of your levels, what you're trying to do, and it's specifically made for you.
One completely individualized, plans, and then on top of that, they're not going to tell you like, "Hey, this is what you need. This is what you need to spend." You can work with them, and you can tell them, "Hey, I kind of only have like $100 to spend this month." They'll figure it out, or you can say, "Hey, I actually have like a pretty good budget." They'll figure it out for you. And one of the awesome things about what we offer you guys is the Power Project panel. It's a panel of 26 different labs. We got together with industry leaders, and again, people like Derek More Plates, More Dates, and we put together a comprehensive panel that will cover you like from head to toe, literally, about everything that's going on under the hood, and you can fix any deficiencies that you may have. You can check out the Power Project panel at merrickhealth.com/powerproject. That's MAREK health.com/powerproject. At checkout, enter promo code PowerProject for $101 off of that panel. Highly recommend it. Head over there ASAP.
This goes along great with today's subject, where we'll be talking about hypertrophy for the legs. Do not skip Legs Day.
But we have pants.
I'll just cover them up with pants.
Yeah, that was always my solution.
Baggy pants.
Jinkos,
Jinko jeans,
Gasoline Kings.
Boo Boo.
There's tighter
Yeah.
pants. There's tighter pants, and there's shorter shorts now. What do you guys think is going on with that?
I dig it.
I dig it.
Yeah,
That's why all my shorts, like legit.
short shorts.
You
it's
guys
dangerous.
dig when I wear tight pants and short shorts, or you
Love
it.
just
I like
dig
it.
it in general?
I like it more when you do it.
Yeah,
Mm.
especially gray tight sweatpants
Yes, the gray sweat.
When we
On the bench.
when we do jumping jacks, that sort
Oh.
of thing. Yeah,
Why?
going downhill
Why
fast
must we start
today.
here?
Yeah.
But yeah, no. As far as legs are concerned, it's pretty interesting. I think that, well, I don't think that. As far as training, most people want to like focus, especially men, want to focus on the show muscles, the chest, the biceps, the triceps, etc. When actually, like those are good, but the legs can drive everything else to actually be stronger and bigger because they're your base, and you want to focus on that base. You want a big old base.
I think we got to redo that meme. You know, the meme where it shows you think that a bunch of girls are going to gather around because you're benching a lot of weight.
Yeah.
I think it should be, you training some legs, because I think the ladies dig it when your legs are looking good. You got some good calves on you. You got some good quads, some good hamstrings, and a good peach. I think the ladies are pretty interested in that.
They like booty too.
Yeah.
They might,
Strong
they might
legs.
whistle at you. They might be out of control. You never know.
That's happened to me before.
Yeah. I mean, I know there was that whole not weird, whatever it was, where like girls were getting interviewed about like what body is better, and it was like a dad bod versus like a dude who was jacked.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine anybody would look at some strong legs and be like, "No, I want those puny ones over there."
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is, like those puny ones that can't carry me. Yeah, that's what I want.
Yeah, and obviously, like, you can get it to like some ridiculous levels, right? Where the bodybuilders, their legs are so big, it almost looks like they're wearing those like MC Hammer pants 24/7
Yeah.
because they got such a big sweep and stuff like that. But we're just talking about training the legs, getting some muscular shape on them, and making them stronger.
hmm One thing that I think is interesting is that like athletes, I think what was it that what was the like what did Jim Wendler say? Something the lower, something the upper. What was it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm.
Athlete the lower.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. He wanted your lower body to be athletic, and I guess to kind of bodybuild the upper body or something like that,
Bodybuild the upper.
something along those lines.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good thing to do that for the lower body. But as far as like lifts are concerned in the gym, a lot of lifts, the upper range of how strong you can get on them are going to be based off of how not just big and like actually going to be based on how big and strong your legs are. An example I like is the Penlay row. It's one of my favorite back movements. Some people don't like it for hypertrophy of the back, but I think it's a pretty great movement. But the strength of what you're going to be able to do as far as the Penlay row is concerned is going to be dictated by the strength of your legs and your hips and your glutes. And you're not going to be able to be very strong at that movement if you don't have a strong lower body. I mean, we can obviously think of even things like the bench press. Creating leg drive and stability within your hips and your hamstrings and your quads in the bench press is going to help you bench press and lift more weight. So your legs can play a big role in you just becoming a bigger, stronger individual. And if you continue to neglect them, if you continue to go pretty light or go pretty easy on your leg days, you might actually be limiting the amount of growth you can have on the rest of your body. I think it's interesting because I'm trying to think, does the upper body really limit what you're able to do with your legs? Not really, but your legs can play a big role in how big your upper body gets.
And even positioning on something like a bench press. I mean, it's you're going to really be able to tap into your nervous system a lot better when you work on squatting and deadlifting. Naturally, you're going to be able to lift more on those exercises. Like sometimes things get a little skewed if you work on the bench press a lot and you don't practice your squatting, but almost always people almost always can out deadlift their bench press unless there's some sort of major injury has happened. But what I would like people to consider is the amount of time that you've already dedicated to training your chest, to training your back, and to training your arms. And I think it's probably fairly common for somebody to have 15-inch arms. It's probably, pretty common amongst people that have been lifting for a while and putting their time in. Well, now what if we have a little time investment into the legs? And I'm not talking about workouts that kill you, that you can't walk for 5 days. I've done stuff like that before, and I've recognized that I actually I know it's easier to say now, but I really truly believe that a lot of those workouts were completely unnecessary. They were me thinking that they were me thinking that I needed to like kill myself with those exercises. And I know that maintaining and even building from here is different than when I was young and when I wasn't built the same. But obviously, some level of soreness is required because there's an adjustment period, and your body has to kind of get used to the new stimulus and things that you're doing, and even just the ranges of motion that you're getting into. So all that's understandable, but I used to do it like every week. I would just completely annihilate myself with like a leg workout, and looking back at it nowadays, I can say like, that wasn't like very efficient.
It's not. And it like one thing that's one of the reasons why people kind of shy away from leg day. Your legs are very big muscle groups. They're very demanding in terms of how much calories you burn when doing those sessions in your quads and your hamstrings. So with that burn and with that pain, I can understand why people like to not put as much effort into their legs as they put into their arms, their chest, their back. But it's something that like will help you athletically, whether you're trying to go into bodybuilding, but especially if you're trying to do something like powerlifting down the road. If you can build a strong base, it's going to make a difference. And I think some different cues that people it's hard to get the hang of, but it even took me a while to get the hang of, was the hip hinge. something as simple as hip hinging and learning how to hip hinge can help drastically with being able to squat a good amount of weight, being able to activate your hamstrings during RDLs, deadlifts, etc. And I think that's one reason why people shy away from doing a lot of those movements, is because since they don't know how to hip hinge and keep everything within the glutes and the hamstrings, a lot of the stuff that they do ends up attacking the lower back. I still see so many comments from people who are like, on leg days, I feel my lower back hurts, this hurts. And it's because you're not able to activate this big mover that's going to help you get more activation out of your hamstrings, get more benefit for your quads. It all starts with the hips.
And a hip hinge, for people that don't know, you can easily look it up on YouTube and kind of check it out there. But also, it's just kind of pushing your hips back and getting your upper body going towards the floor. And hopefully you got like a range of motion where you could have your shoulders and hips be like level with each other. And you can have your back basically pretty flat, almost like you're just trying to bend down and touch your toes, really is all you're really doing. And those movements, like you pointed out, they're building up the hamstrings, they're building up the glutes. As weird as it might sound, I still think that these are unconventional things to train, even though so much has been pointed out about the positive benefits of training the posterior chain. I still think that people, a lot of people that are just starting to hit the gym, they're still kind of thinking of biceps, triceps, and just as you pointed out really well, they're just like, man, I don't want that sitting in me. You know, I don't want that soreness sitting around for 4 or 5 days. What we're trying to share with you today is like, let's just start to implement some of it. And maybe there's not a crazy amount of sets. Maybe there's not a crazy amount of reps. Maybe it's as simple as, and when there's not a crazy amount of weight. Maybe it's something as simple as 1 week, maybe you deadlift, and maybe the next week you work on some type of squat, and you go back and forth between the two every other week or so, and you do 3 sets, 10 to 12 reps. We're staying away from the lower rep ranges for a while, making sure that we understand how to do the lift properly, do it with good form. Again, these are all things you can look up on YouTube. You can check out even my YouTube channel, the Super Training Gym YouTube channel, where we've got people like Ed Cohn and Chris Duffin explaining how to deadlift and squat. And you can find some great information there. But, you know, just really take your time with it, because it's going to take time to build that muscle, and it's going to take time to learn how to do the exercise properly.
I think great places to start for a lot of this is like, if you're trying to like start with the barbell squat and you haven't done that before, things like box squats are really beneficial because it limits the range of motion, and it can allow you to figure out how low you can go comfortably.
Less
so you're
load on the knee too.
Less load on the knee. But even before squatting, if like that whole motion, because squatting for a lot of people in and of itself, it's hard to start with. So you can start with goblet squats. And I think like a great thing is like maybe doing goblet squats, but also maybe getting a slant board. So you can do goblet squats to a bench if you have a lack of knee mobility, or I guess lack of mobility in general within the hip. But if you'd like to go deeper, and like, again, we just talked in the last episode about figuring out your range of motion and working through those ranges of motion, lowering that load, getting a slant board, squatting with a slant board, and then you'll feel massive activation of your VMOs. And a lot of people don't even feel those working when they squat with the barbell, because they're not going that deep. So not getting as much VMO activation. That's your teardrop muscle, by the way.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, squatting hurts. It hurts me, I should say. You know, my lower back has always been an issue, and it's going to be an issue until I really just stop everything and address it. But in the meantime, I still want to build some quads, some legs and stuff. And using the slant board, I mean, that has totally helped like change the way my legs look. You know, like I've done, you know, some heavy-ish squats for myself in the past, and I feel like my legs right now, although I haven't really been focusing too much on them, like I feel like the rest of my body is progressing a lot faster than my legs. But I feel right now that they probably look better than they have in a very long time.
Yeah.
If I got leaner, they'd probably look better, of course. But using that slant board, like I've been using either just an empty bar, or today, like I just had 2 10s. And dude, I was torched. Like it felt amazing, and no pain anywhere else in my body. Slant board guy, he's crushing it right now. Like that's a really great product. I know there's other, like, I don't want to say knockoffs, but it's a fucking wedge, right? Like things exist, but the way that he's been making them and shipping them out from Australia, it's fucking incredible. But like getting Nico on that, you know, he's in his full UPS getup and he's fucking getting some squats in. It's great. It's a lot of fun, and it's just an awesome stimulus, and it doesn't hurt. That's the main thing. For myself, staying out of pain is my number one priority. I don't hurt when I do that, but I get an awesome training stimulus when I do use it.
You did a lot of movements today for your legs, and they were all things that are probably not too aggressive towards your back pain, right?
Nope, none whatsoever. That was the main thing. And we were talking about the leg press, and that used to bother me, so I haven't touched it in a very long time. And then today I'm like, dude, that felt good. Like, you know,
what did you do differently?
I don't know. I ended up hitting 3 plates on it, and I was hitting only like sets of 15, and it just felt good. I think I maybe was under more control because I am more conscious of making sure I stay healthy. So like I wasn't like everything was under control.
Yeah.
Just put it that way. And I was just really trying to imagine my quads and my hamstrings and everything growing, but no, it felt good. And then everything else, just leg extension, hamstring curls. I tried some like Doug Brignoli's thing is the working the glutes on like the hip hinge machine. So I tried tying up my ankle to the cable machine to replicate that. And what I noticed right away was my left side is super imbalanced and out of control. My right side was legit, like I can go straight up and down. My left side, my knee was going all over the place. It was really weird. But yeah, no, nothing put my back in any compromised positions today.
One thing I'd like to mention is just with pain in general, this is something that's helped me a lot, is to try to get a pretty good pump. Sometimes you want to be careful on how much of a pump that you get because it could be limiting and it could kind of negatively impact some of your workouts. It's going to be hard to use a good amount of weight sometimes, and sometimes that is sort of the goal. But Jay Cutler, was a big proponent of doing leg extensions before he would squat. Obviously, he's one of the most well-conditioned bodybuilders of all time and just had crazy, crazy legs. But the point there being, and Knees Over Toes said it when he was here, Ben Patrick, he said, you ever get a pump that is such a good pump that everything just goes numb and you can't feel anything? And I was like, oh my God, like I'm such a meathead. I never really thought about it, but that's what I did in most of my powerlifting career. I would do tons of curls actually, because I thought like I'm just total meathead. I'm like, if I do a bunch of hammer curls before I bench press, my arms will actually be bigger. And because they're bigger, the bench press will actually be easier because I'm thinking get a little bit of a forearm pump, get a little bit of a bicep pump, and my arms will be like larger. So it'll be a better launching point for me to bench the weight off of, which is somewhat correct to get a little bit of a pump in there. But what I didn't realize I was doing is that was very healthy for my elbow because I would get a really good pump going. And it was actually healthy just even for my shoulder joint and stuff to get a little bit warm, get my body temperature up for the day, for the particular work that I was doing. But that could be really beneficial. So anybody who's got like lower back issues or is dealing with any sort of injury, try to find a way to get a lot of blood flow into whatever the area is that's bugging you. One of the problems for me over the years has been I've had issues of trying to figure out how in the fuck do I get blood to my knees, because every time I go to move my knees, it fucking hurts. And so now, Ben shows us the sled dragging stuff, which I've known about sled dragging for many years, but incorporating the backward sled dragging, some of the forward sled dragging, and then even some of the stuff on the slant board has been really, really impactful. So those are all great places to start, even if it's not just a knee thing, even if it's your lower back, you got your body temperature up, you got your body moving. And when you go to do the other movements, they should be easier. You should be less likely to hurt yourself.
Absolutely. And I think that, over the years, the idea, there's like two parties. There's people that are like, chase the pump, right? And there are people like, oh, you shouldn't be chasing the pump. You should be, that's not the biggest deal, etc. But I do think that especially when you're starting out or in the first few years of your training, you do want to learn how to chase that pump, but also work with quite a bit of training volume. Because when you are working a specific muscle group, and a lot of people are like, I don't feel this working, or I don't feel activation of this. If you're working with loads that can allow you to get a pump, that means a load that's not too heavy that you can't handle, because you'll notice that you won't be able to get as good of a pump with a super heavy load. But if you work with a load in that mid-range that you're doing for higher reps, that you're able to get a better pump with, you're able to get you're able to get better muscle activation. And as we learned from Brad Schoenfeld, and he kind of just reiterated this. Individuals that are able to have a better mind muscle connection, that can really feel that specific muscle group working or force that muscle group to work while they're doing certain movements, they can grow bigger muscles with better muscle control. And if you are chasing the pump, you will learn how to activate those muscles better. So if you're someone who usually you can't feel your rear delts and movements, you want to try to work with movements that can allow you to really drive blood towards those muscles. You get a lot of rear delt work through just rows, dumbbell rows, barbell rows, pendlay rows, any type of pull, right? But also things like face pulls. So that's why things like holding the peak contraction of different movements, and really driving blood to those muscle groups can really be helpful as far as growth is concerned. Same thing with like the leg press, holding top positions, bottom positions, leg extensions, holding the top extension of the leg extension can really help you feel those muscle groups working, get better mind muscle connection, and overall grow more over time.
I know, Nsima, you have a lot of issues with being mature when I say certain words. So let's see if you can hold it together during this. See if you can follow me on this. So is Andrew more likely to gain 5 pounds below the waist from the belly button down? You're doing pretty good.
Good job.
Or is he more likely to gain 5 pounds in the upper body over the next like 2 years? Andrew has been training for a while. He can definitely still put on some size on the upper body. He's looking good now, but I think, you know, the likelihood of him being able to slap some weight on would come from the glutes, the hamstrings, and the quads and the calves. That's where it seems like he's got the most potential to really grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be able to, he's going to be able to see way more growth there, even in these next few years, than the upper body. But again, growth there will help drive growth of the upper body. We were kind of talking about this earlier, but when you see someone usually with a really well-developed upper body, they usually have decently developed legs. The places where you might not see this are like maybe men's physique competitors that wear board shorts, especially in the IFBB, because a little bit of stuff going on. So their upper body is just able to grow without them really forcing themselves to work on their lower body. But a lot of athletes that you see that generally they have a really great upper body, you look at their lower body, it's good too. So you got to see like there's something there in terms of having a strong base that'll help drive the amount of load that you can work with when you're doing upper body movements. Let's think about this. And it's not a perfect thing, but just think about getting yourself in a dumbbell rowing position, right? And you're having to row a dumbbell here. Now, there are movements that you can do that can take the lower body out of the picture, like seal rows. But when your hand is on something and you're dumbbell rowing with this side, your opposite leg is keeping strong to stabilize that load. So think about this. If you want to row 110 pounds, but you have a weak lower body, you're not going to be able to row that 110 pounds. You're going to lower it automatically just because your legs cannot keep that base, right? But again, if you have a strong base, there are going to be a lot of things that you can work in the gym with heavier load for your upper body. So it's going to help build everything out.
I don't want to like overthink stuff too much, but again, in the scenario where Andrew maybe packed a little bit more weight below the waist, you can kind of imagine.
Does he not already have a lot of weight below the waist with that Congo dick? Okay, let's keep going.
I'm like, I can see it.
I had to say it.
You had to slide it in.
I had to slide it in. Okay, let's keep going.
You slid it in perfectly.
Just the right fit.
So if he has a little bit more extra weight on the lower body, every single time he goes for his 10-minute walks and things like that, obviously the legs are being activated, they're being utilized, they have more muscle mass on them, and his like kind of resting metabolic rate is increasing. In addition to, you know, if he packed weight on the upper body, the same exact thing would be happening, but you know, we don't walk on our hands, we walk on our legs. So I'm kind of thinking every time you sit down, every time you get up, your lower body is a little bit more active than the upper body. And I know this is like very, very minor, but over a long period of time, this kind of thing's going to add up. Also, by training the lower body, we're gaining access to being able to lift heavier weights. We're giving ourselves a really good opportunity to lift something heavy, whereas through the upper body, typically, you know, you're doing like a lateral raise or like a row, you might handle some pretty heavy weight on stuff like that. But when it comes to squats and deadlifts, those exercises lend themselves to allow you to handle some pretty damn good weight. When you're handling really good weight, you're going to increase your bone density. The muscle tension is going to help expand your body's ability to be able to gain more access to better hypertrophy just because you're in better condition, for lack of a better term there. Because you'll be able to lift heavier on most of the other movements. And so I think it's a win-win all around. And again, we're not advising that you go in the gym and just completely annihilate your lower body. I think you can have good, effective workouts. I think on the lower body, kind of depending on some of the other movements that you do, but I think you could spend about 30 minutes on it and get a really awesome workout and or even incorporate some upper body stuff in there. So I think it could have a huge impact on your metabolism. Let's also not forget the positive benefits of handling heavier weight, what it does to our bone density. You're going to be increasing that bone density. You're going to make yourself less fragile. You're going to make yourself stronger in more ways than one. So the benefits they're kind of almost endless. They give you more access to being able to burn more calories and to having more muscle mass.
Just thinking about the amount of issues that are caused when people have like weak glutes. They're complaining about lower back pain, lack of stability because there's not a good amount of strength in their glutes and their hamstrings. So when we're talking about like building the lower body, don't just focus on building your quads, because that's the first thing people think about, your teardrop, your quad sweep, etc. Figure out ways and movements that you can do that are going to help strengthen your hamstrings, are going to help strengthen your glutes. I mean, we obviously love deadlifts. We love any type of hip hinging movement. We love squats. Those deal with those specifically, but maybe try to add in some isolation movements for your hamstrings and your glutes. So maybe things like the GHR, maybe things like dumbbell RDLs, single leg RDLs. Add in a lot of movements that like even single leg back extensions. Like the movements that you saw me do, yeah, they are back extensions, but on that single leg,
those are really tough. I did them today.
Oh yeah? How do you like them? How do you like them on the hamstrings?
I love them, but I was like, man, I'm really getting like real lopsided, especially on with my left leg. I felt like I kept kind of falling off there. And you were saying the guy that came in here was doing it with weight, right?
Julian Baldi, he's the guy that can do the back extension with 275, 295 pounds or something wild like that.
It's fake weight.
That's fucking fake weight. It's weakling. Julian's legit. He's strong as hell, but he's the one who showed me the single leg back extensions. And as I started doing them, I was like, wow, I see where I'm uneven. I see where this leg has a little bit stronger strength than this leg. So it's a great way for you to even things out and get both legs to be as strong as each other, deal with inefficiencies.
I think another thing that's at play here is let's not forget about the value of, and again, we're not talking about annihilating yourself in the gym here, but like these sets that are kind of like for our mind, you know, the upper body stuff when you're doing some chest, it kind of feels good to do a lot of flies or do a high rep set of dips or dumbbell presses or something like that. But when it comes to legs and your legs start to burn, you're just like, fuck. This gives you an opportunity to stand up to a challenge. And there's so much research and science about this. You can listen to some stuff from Jordan Peterson. He talks about this often. When you stand up to a challenge and you put yourself out there in front of things that you're kind of scared of or things that are getting uncomfortable, you get stronger over time. So we're not just talking about the strength that you're getting in the gym. You're becoming stronger all the time, even from a mental perspective, because training the legs is like, I don't know why, but it's especially like something like a leg extension or sometimes like a hack squat or something. And you're like, oh my God, the leg extension feels like some sort of, like it feels like you're sitting in like an electric chair or something. It's fucking kills. You're like, how is this possible? All I'm doing is, you know, just flicking my legs forward and they're completely on fire. You're like, this is ridiculous.
Dude, especially the machine that we have where you can change the where the weight like is focused. That is my favorite.
Prime.
Yeah. Thank you. I couldn't remember the name. Prime something.
So good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a set on the way out here.
You
guys will see.
Shit.
You guys will see. There'll be a teardrop.
Oh, nice. But when it comes to getting into that state,
what the fuck did I just do? Did you hear that?
That was weird.
I didn't hear it. I was paying attention.
What just came out of my mouth? I don't know.
It was weird. People that listen to the show, they might not have really listened enough to know that Nsima sometimes gets like hysterical, and I think we're getting there. Usually it's from like a beer, you know, or some sort, or a drink.
A beer.
Yeah, a beer.
Singular.
Literally, it's just a beer.
One beer.
I will be done.
Well,
I
when
won't stop laughing all
when we
night.
all took one shot, you were getting naked.
Yeah, I
So
took
that
off
was
my
pretty
shirt.
cool.
I was getting warm.
Yeah.
I hope you didn't lose your point about the prime leg extension.
I've already lost it. I just
You
want
got it.
quick shout out to Big J. He just checked in on the live
What?
chat.
Big
I
J
know.
Extreme Fitness?
Hey!
Hey,
Our
yo.
boy, yeah. Hey, yo. But on that leg extension bad boy thingy, that is my favorite movement to do, where you get into that weird spot where you're just fucking zoning out and you feel that burn. Because you can, after you do that and you try to walk around, you're like, oh my God, I think I fucked myself up permanently. Like you think you broke yourself, and then eventually you kind of can snap out of it. But what I wanted to ask you guys about that, I will come in the mornings and almost exclusively just come in to chase the pump. And I've been making some pretty solid progress. Is there anything wrong with what I'm doing? I know, Mark, you want me to lift heavy, so there's that. But I don't know. I'm trying not to get hurt, and I'm just engorging the muscles with blood, and I'm trying to pack on some size.
You pump chasing son of a bitch.
That's me.
I think that's great, Andrew. I think that's productive. And when I say heavy, I just mean heavy for you and heavy
Correct. Yeah.
and heavy for the things that you're doing, let's say you're going to do, I don't know, something like an RDL with some dumbbells, a Romanian deadlift or something. If you use 20 pounds in week 1, maybe by week 3, you're using 35 pounds, things like that. Just trying to push the weight up, little by little. It's not, I think sometimes when we talk about going heavy, somebody's thinking, oh man, I got to get back to the gym and I got to deadlift 3 plates. And we're not talking about ever trying to set anything up that your body's not prepared to do. You're only as good as the workouts you've done previously. So all you're trying to do is have a small progression. And if you can incorporate a couple of exercises that are a little bit more user-friendly in terms of the amount of weight that you use, then I think those are some good options. And you don't want your workout to be all of those movements, but, because you can just kind of kill yourself with too much dumbbell and too much barbell stuff. But Nsima brought up, a single arm row. So imagine you have some workouts where you do some single arm rows, you do some squats, you do some deadlifting here and there. I mean, those are all, and you do some military presses. Now you could still have all the assistance exercises wherever you'd like, but those are great fundamental movements that will allow you to handle a little bit more weight. And I'm not saying that you can't grow by doing, kettlebell swings and goblet squats and stuff like that. I just think that you want to try to find some fundamental exercises that are probably more on the side of barbells and dumbbells, and then you can kind of move into having more assistance exercises and stuff.
Yeah, just like the leg press that we talked about. In my head, I was like, yeah, I'll just throw on 2 plates and then just do a bunch of high reps. But it felt great. So I'm like, we're throwing on another plate, and I felt secure. And that was the heaviest. That's the most amount of weight I've moved in a while. Well, yeah, I know it's a leg press, so it equates to whatever. But no, it felt good. And in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, Mark wants me to go a little bit heavier, and it worked out because it was exactly what you just explained right now, even though I didn't know it in that moment.
Good on you too, because you did a smart move. You took the jump in between. A lot of people, they get get excited and they want to do plate. Andrew did 1 plate, 2 plates, and then did a quarter, and then removed the quarter and put a plate on. Just anytime anybody ever is in question of how much weight they should add, always choose less weight, unless it's to maybe win a powerlifting meet or something.
And on that idea of things being heavy, there are different ideas of heavy. Is it heavy within a rep range of 10 reps, right? You can do heavy sets of 10. But one thing to think about, when you're doing a heavy set of 10, is the different ways where you can make that set a little bit more difficult. So I know that we're always seeking to try to increase training volume, right? Because that drives hypertrophy. But think about this. Chest flies. A lot of people, when they're doing chest flies, they are doing the movement fairly quickly to try to move as much weight as they can, even when they're doing sets of 10. So they're here, right? They're doing their set. They're not focusing on feeling the hard peak contraction of their pecs or really letting themselves get stretched out. So if you purposefully just let yourself take a little bit more time in those positions and get that stretch and get that flex, by the 10th rep of the set, you're going to be struggling to like, you're going to be struggling to drive a lot of blood to that muscle group. And that's going to actually be a useful set rather than just
throwing the weights around.
Right. Using a lot of momentum, throwing the weights around. As much as that may be fun, I do think that's something that limits a lot of people in terms of really feeling the muscles that they're trying to help get bigger. And as we've learned, you want to learn how to control those muscle groups. You want to feel them. You
want to end up with a great capacity. When we worked out with Jason Khalipa, you and I worked out with Jason Khalipa. You guys we were doing some like, I think we're doing some goblet squats or something like that in between doing some bench press. And for me, especially for right now, it's just not in the cards for me to squat the exact way that you guys were doing. But because you guys have a better capacity, you're able to burn way more calories than what I was able to do. So any limitations that you have, whether it's your fitness level, just in general, you can't breathe during certain exercises, or you started to lose range of motion on something, or you're not as strong as you kind of should be, or just in general, you're not in shape to kind of handle the high repetitions of bouncing around from like one thing to the other. You're driving down your access to be able to be more jacked. And you want all the doors to be open. You want all the options to be open. And so it's important that you work on trying to keep your mobility, a large range of motion, as Nsima is pointing out, and just not even just the range of motion, but doing the exercise properly. A lot of times we're just doing a movement and we're excited about it and we're doing it fast and we're trying to get through the range of motion that we think we're supposed to be doing. But if you take your time, you can burn a lot more calories. You can have it register in your body as something that signals your body to grow. And so there's just way more benefit in just trying to slow the fuck down. And before we started rolling today, Nsima mentioned, taking the whole hypertrophy thing, taking that entire process kind of slowly. And we mentioned that neither one of us really, even though I started in powerlifting, I wasn't doing like singles and triples and stuff like that for a long time. I wasn't even really allowed to. My brothers and the guy that was coaching me at the time, he was like, you don't know how to lift, so why would we be going heavy? Let's learn how to lift. Let's do the exercises correctly. And I think maybe 6 or 8 weeks down the road, after I did sets of 10 over and over again, every once in a while, he was like, yeah, go ahead and do a set of 5. Go ahead and do a set of 3. It was like sprinkled in there. And I think it was to kind of see how I'd react. It was to see how I'd react with a heavier weight. And I did pretty good. So then he would sprinkle it in there a little bit more.
I don't want to make you guys nervous, but Michael Hearn just checked in on the live chat. So he's saying that we got to get in another leg workout. And so can you? So I wanted to bring that up because I have never seen Nsima like really look at a challenge, or I mean,
starting to sweat.
Exactly. Like I've never seen him struggle, just period, put it that way. When he was on the hack squat after O'Hearn was coaching him through it, I heard a weird sound that I never heard anyone make, but let alone Nsima. It was like a yelp almost.
It was a grunt.
It was like
I grunted and it was manly. I didn't yelp.
If you guys can recall that shit, because speaking of somebody who has it all together, right? He has fucking gigantic legs, and I mean he's well rounded. So
he's Michael Trent.
He's Michael Trent. There you go.
Yeah, we mentioned that man in the last podcast. The range of motion, the unorthodox movements, like all that stuff is super useful.
Ask him if he's got like 2 or 3 favorite leg exercises for us while we're on this topic.
Yeah.
Let's go.
In the meantime, let's not forget about single leg ranges of motion and single leg movements. You got Bulgarian split squats. You got things like lunges. I think these things should be incorporated quite a bit. What do you think, Nsima?
Those ATG split squats, I think, are really, really good because, again, like I think especially when you're building a base, a lot of people don't really move into very deep knee flexion. I think if there's anything that we've gotten from Ben Patrick and the whole ATG squat, it's that get yourself comfortable in very deep knee flexion, and people are scared of squatting there. So adding those in slowly so you can actually work in those ranges too. Hack squatting, leg pressing, etc. All those movements are good. But I think one thing is, since we're talking about leg pressing, people need to increase their range of motion on the leg press.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Most people, when they're leg pressing, is just straight up and down. But when we were leg pressing with Mike, and I do this, but Mike made us do it in just a much more torturous fashion, you know, creating like opening up your knees so the leg press can come all the way to the bottom. I think he had us pause at the bottom for a few seconds.
Yeah.
And then we pushed up. And then we came back down and paused, and these were like sets of 10. And I grunted like a man. But yeah, increasing your range of motion on these movements will allow you to actually stimulate more muscle tissue because you're going through different range, going through larger ranges. It's useful.
Yeah,
It's brutal.
that was
Brutal.
probably the only time where I was like kind of okay with just filming, because that shit looked painful.
God dang.
And just like, I'm trying to be cinematic, so I don't have time to.
Yeah. I got this whole thing. I got the script written down right here. This is like, it's a whole thing. So I'm sorry.
Can't get involved.
Yeah. But Mike, just like Mark, like he will grab somebody that isn't really like, I mean, me in comparison to like that group, it would be like totally an outlier, but he would like coach me through something similar at a proper weight that wouldn't, you know, compromise my health or anything. So it's really cool when we get to hang out with Otren.
Yeah. But, you know, to what we were talking about, be real quick in terms of like the base that was built, right? From the age of 13 to 21, I didn't really focus on strength training. I didn't do singles, doubles, triples. I barely worked with fours. Like everything I did was between 5 and 15, 20 reps.
You were maybe adding a little bit of weight here and there.
Of
where
course.
You could, yeah.
Yeah. Like I was of course progressing. Like I was moving a heavier and heavier weight all the time. So I was getting stronger, but I wasn't focusing on doing heavy singles or anything like that. But then when I switched and started kind of adding powerlifting in and focusing on getting stronger, it's deep on my Instagram, but you guys can see when I had my first 500-pound squat, and it was only like 6 months or 7 months before that I was struggling with 365 pounds, like for heavy loads, because I didn't work with heavy loads. Yeah, it would be a good video.
Show your progress.
But that's the reason why I developed so quickly as far as strength, is because I built this big volume of muscle. I built a big frame that was muscular. Now to transfer that into being strong was quick.
Yeah, I really like this quote. I'm gonna fucking butcher the name, but Hijalti, something like that.
Okay.
Quote, "Your leg work is your chest worth," and I'm like, that's awesome. You know, because that's exactly what you're explaining right now. Just like build that base, and then everything else will follow.
I like that.
Yeah, I dig it too.
So some primary movements for legs would be, you know, you got your kind of normal stuff. You got some form of squat, some type of hip hinging exercise, something that represents some type of deadlifting. Could be a kettlebell swing even. Your squat could even be like a goblet squat. I don't think it matters a ton. I do think that it's a good idea if you're newer to lifting to, again, maybe lean towards the barbell stuff just a bit more, just to handle a little bit more weight here and there. But I think you can also make a lot of progress and grow like crazy from utilizing the kettlebells, because a lot of times when you do kettlebell goblet squat or you do front squats on like a slant board or something like that with the kettlebells, the range of motion is increased by a ton. We talked about how that can add a lot of volume. So you got some form of squat, you got some form of a deadlift. You have some single leg movements such as like lunges, Bulgarian split squats. There's many different types of lunges. Let's not forget about dragging the sled or any sort of weighted carry. Weighted carries are amazing. They're not really going to put a huge demand directly on the legs, but some sort of weighted carry is a great exercise for many different reasons. But dragging a sled forward and backward has been very beneficial for me, for my calves, just kind of your tendons and ligaments. Also building up the quads. When you walk backwards with a sled, it'll make your legs go on fire.
Oh,
and
God, yeah.
walking forward with the sled burns your butt like crazy. And you got some other exercise to kind of add in there?
You mentioned the ATG stuff, but ATG split squat. Think what else?
You got machines, obviously. Those always have some. You can utilize them as well.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, and maybe this is more of an athletic side of things, but I'm a big fan of doing things on single legs, because single legs, like you can, for example, if you're doing a back extension on the back extension machine there, and you're always using both legs, if you do a single leg back extension, you will realize literally which leg and which hamstring is weaker. And you want to work through that, because now when you're trying to transfer that to being able to squat heavy loads, being able to deadlift heavy loads, you're not going to be biasing one side. You want both sides to be as strong. So single leg back extensions, but I also enjoy single leg dumbbell RDLs.
Might be good for Andrew, who has some lower back issues here and there. You'd use way less weight with a single leg RDL.
Yeah, you have to use way less weight, and you have to focus on the idea of balancing, right? And again, if you're just someone who's only focused on bodybuilding, maybe you don't really care about the balance factor of things. But me being also, I'm doing that, but I'm also focused on athletics. I feel like that has a really good function in terms of being able to now do things off of one leg, just like the monkey foot thing that I was doing the other day. Single leg hip flexor raises, right? But balancing there. All of those movements can be done with a single leg, and I think that'd be beneficial for working through imbalance issues.
Cool. We have from Michael Hearn, isolated squat, deep leg press, and the hack squat, isolating the quads.
We have a hack squat machine coming soon. I'm excited for that one. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, those are all great.
One
Those
thing
are all
that
great movements.
One thing that might be good to add for some people is just because, like, we talk a lot about controlling these movements, and you should, but there is a benefit in terms of being able to really create force out of bottom positions, or having good force production. So I think that's why, what you mentioned, the kettlebell swings are really good, because if someone's never done a kettlebell swing before, you'll notice when someone does know how to create force with their hips, right? And that can help with a lot of power production when it comes to squatting and deadlifting and those other movements. So adding bands to some of these movements that can help you create force through like a range, like banded leg press, banded squats, those movements can be pretty beneficial, and you don't have to use super heavy load, but it can help you learn how to create force out of those positions.
I think kind of in general terms, once you understand how to do some of the movements with a barbell, I'm of the opinion that most of the time you should try to explode into the barbell. And I don't mean like recklessly and go crazy and have the weight jump off your back when you squat and stuff like that. But, watch some Tom Platz from back in the day. Watch that guy squat. He's really putting a lot of force into it. And there's a lot of proof and a lot of science, not really necessarily proof, but there's a lot of information, a lot of research that shows that when you are trying to produce as much force as possible, you are impacting your explosive strength quite a bit, even if it feels like you're moving slow because the weight is heavy. If you're just trying to accelerate the weight as quick as you can, you'll still get a lot of transfer in strength with it. And again, I'm not saying like, that you lift like a maniac. Always control the movement. But on a lot of exercises on the way up out of like something like a squat, try to explode through it a bit.
What about how many times a week you want to hit your legs?
I'm always a fan of twice at minimum.
I think he answered it perfectly.
Yeah, pretty chill, huh?
Yes.
Makes sense.
Well, if you do one time a week, that might be where you're digging yourself in a hole and you did too much in one particular day. So doing it twice a week, I don't think you need a lot of exercises.
You don't.
I think that you can get away with, like, if you're new to training your legs and you haven't really done it before, you can get away with like 2 or 3. It doesn't have to be a lot of movement. So don't put that blockade up before you ever even go and mess with it. Just say, hey, I heard those guys talking about doing 2 movements for legs twice a week. Do 2 movements for legs twice a week for like 2 months, and then add something else in when you feel like you're ready for it, so you don't get yourself too fucked up and too sore.
Yeah. If you do 3 exercises, it could be a squatting motion, a hip hinge motion, and then a hamstring focused motion, right? Without any type of hip hinge. That could be a hamstring curl or a lying hamstring curl. And then, we didn't really talk about calves, but you may want to do that if you don't want sticker legs.
Yeah,
just add some calves in.
Yeah, mix in some calves. I think Charles Poliquin was quoted as saying, if people did a set of calves for every set of biceps that they did, we wouldn't have people with tiny ass calves. So, it's good to just figure out where to kind of put them into the mix. But we pointed out many times in this show before, why not mix your calves in when you're training like your shoulders or something? Like it doesn't weaken your shoulder workout. It just is adding to you burning more calories during your training session, keeping the heart rate elevated, and it's getting rid of you not having any calves.
And last thing, real quick about those calves, man, do not bounce. No more bouncy bounce. Get that stretch in your Achilles.
Oh,
Full range.
Get that full range, stretch in the Achilles, pause at the bottom, then press up and back down.
And
You
then regret it that you did them all together the next day.
because they could.
Because you
Oh,
cannot fucking walk.
oh, they can get really sore.
Trying to go up a step or something, you can't lift your toes up. You just fall over.
Oh, it hurts. It does fuck up your balance when your calves hurt really bad.
Yeah, it does.
Like fall.
Ooh.
I fall
does.
backwards because I can't there I go.
Mm.
Yeah. Got a question
ahead.
from O'Hearn. Yeah, for Nsima.
Oh, what's up?
Has your approach to weightlifting changed because of jiu-jitsu, and how are you using the lifting to create a better athlete rather than just a physique?
Oh, yeah. No, my approach to lifting has changed because I kind of had to back off of my training volume because of jiu-jitsu initially. So I had to work with less a little bit. And all of that was to help me maintain the strength that I had and maintain the muscle I had. But now when I look at lifting, I try to use lifting because I still want to get as big as possible, but I also want to move really well. So like everything I do is through kind of just wild ranges of motion sometimes, because I know that number one in jiu-jitsu, I need to be strong in very unorthodox ranges. If my arm's out here, I can't be weak here if I'm trying to escape an armbar. You know what I mean? Or if my leg is all the way up here, I need to be able to create force from this position if a guy's here, right? So now when I do a lot of my movements in the gym, sometimes I explode through certain movements, but I'm always going through the highest range of motion possible and trying to work with the best load for that. As it's going to help me build muscle, but it's also going to help me build mobility. It's going to help me get stronger. And I'm not really focused on how heavy the load is anymore. Don't get me wrong. I still want to work with heavy loads, but it's like, is that really going to be that beneficial for me right now? Or if I can just build up to that load and get stronger slower, but now when I'm working with that load, I'm now working it through a massive range of motion. That's what I look at.
I think it's important to note that you haven't ditched bodybuilding stuff just because you're doing jiu-jitsu. However, you might have ditched some small aspects of powerlifting, some small aspects of bodybuilding, just so you can continue to, reach your goal and not have anything slow you down or hold you back. Something like maybe a lot of sets of heavy deadlifting. Like, for a while you were training your deadlift, you built up to a really strong deadlift, a couple years back. But it doesn't really make a lot of sense for you to be like honed in and focused in on the deadlift. It's like deadlifting strength doesn't seem to be a problem for you when you're in jiu-jitsu. And then same thing with some bodybuilding practices like drop sets and things like that. Like those are all great things, and I'm sure you still incorporate them here or there, but does it really make sense for you to really, get into really breaking down and crushing the muscle tissue before you run off to a jiu-jitsu practice?
No, because like when I think about the amount of time that it takes to work up to a heavy triples or fours for a deadlift, that's going to take a lot of my workout. And I could have gone through so many other movements that were really beneficial rather than concentrating on just 45 minutes of deadlifting and then into what I got to do. I'll still do considerable I'll still considerable loads on these movements, but it's not going to be something that takes me 30 minutes to complete.
So that might be a big change.
What?
I think previously when you'd come in and train, when you weren't, not even when you weren't in jiu-jitsu necessarily, but when you weren't as focused on jiu-jitsu as you are nowadays, I think you would come in and do maybe a little bit less exercises than you do now.
Yeah, so I would do like a lot of my big compounds, but then I'd still do some smaller accessory movements, but I wouldn't do as many of those accessory movements as I'm doing now.
Seems like now sometimes you might do like 10 different things. I mean, I think you kind of suffer from what Andrew and I have. We got workout ADHD, where we just kind of like get pumped and we're like, oh, I got to do that. I got to do that. But
it's also because I have the time to go do those movements. Like I'll do, maybe if I do some squatting, I'll work with a load for like 6s or 7s, but between that squat, I have the ability to go to something else, come back and squat, go do something else, come back and squat. Everything I do, I'm not doing and sitting I'm doing one movement. I'm doing 2 movements back to back, 2 to 3 movements back to back, then moving to another superset, then moving to another superset. I don't waste much time.
Back to back like Lethal Weapon?
Back to back like Lethal Weapon.
Is that Drake?
That is Drake. That song was so good.
That song was really good.
Yeah. Do you like Back to Back by Drake?
I don't think I've ever heard it.
We'll listen to it after the podcast. It's a hype song.
Oh,
I haven't listened to that song in like years though.
Gets the people going.
Yeah.
Andrew hates all these kids these days.
He likes Kanye.
Yeah, no, Kanye's great.
Yeah.
It was funny. The song that we were listening to this morning in the gym, I was getting ready to explain to Mark, but then we ended up going for a walk. But it was before his car accident, and not a lot of people even can look back and be like, "Oh shit, he looks way different." It's because it was before it was I can't live my. I'm having a hard time.
You talking about Kanye right now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
With was it Dilated People? Oh my gosh, sorry, I'm forgetting.
I need to hear it. I don't know if I've heard it.
It's a pretty old song. Like I said, it was right before he even like anybody really knew who he was. Yeah.
Interesting.
I know. No, Kanye's the shit. I love Kanye.
Why
That
are we
808s and
groaning?
Heartbreaks was
808s and Heartbreaks was great.
it was okay.
It was good.
It was okay.
Hey,
Hey,
build up your goddamn legs. Don't be a
Yes.
fucking pussy.
Oh,
Go in the
yeah.
gym and hit up some squats.
knocked him over.
Nothing wrong with fucking bending your knees and sitting back into a squat and building up those quads.
And women love big legs
Oh my god.
and short shorts.
Hey now.
Yeah, we haven't talked. Well, I mean, I guess we did talk about the shorts getting shorter, but remember how we
Are
were
they getting shorter or are our legs just
getting
growing?
bigger? Whoa. But it wasn't that long ago that basketball shorts was like the thing.
Yep.
That's true.
Now we're just.
You mean like the
letting it-
long basketball shorts?
Yeah.
Okay, not the short ones.
No, not John Stockton's. No, we're going
Those-
back to that.
Yeah, the Dennis Rodman shorts from back in the day.
Pistons, yeah.
You know,
God damn, he's got long legs, Dennis Rodman.
yeah,
He's a
yeah,
tall guy.
yeah.
Everything's long.
Everything's long on Dennis Rodman. But it's interesting. I feel like I was watching a video the other day.
He's got short hair. I don't know where he's going.
Yeah, that's true. He's got short hair. But apparently Gen Z is straying away from skinny jeans. Apparently they're going back to baggy jeans.
Yeah.
So baggy jeans are about to make a comeback. What?
Yeah, everything just comes and goes. It's a circle. Shit comes
So
in style,
interesting.
goes out of style.
Yeah.
Same thing with music.
Mhm.
Do I need to pay attention to that, or am I too old?
Mark, just do your thing, bro.
Just be me.
When you're rich, you can do whatever.
It
you
doesn't
want.
matter.
It doesn't matter.
All right,
Yeah,
I'll figure something out.
you can.
We'll help you with that shit. Like,
Thank you.
We'll tell you what to wear. We'll put your wardrobe together. Just trust us.
I
I
definitely
gotta
got to.
throw out all that stuff and start over.
Yeah,
Give it to me. We wear the same size everything.
That's true.
That
That
is
is
true.
true.
I got to get bigger.
Hmm?
I got.
Yeah.
How do I grow my feet so that way I can wear the same shoe size as you guys?
Oh yeah, right.
Do I just get fat?
Maybe don't wear shoes for a long time.
And they'll grow.
Oh yeah, just eat hella carbs like I did that weekend, so your feet get like
So I
bloated.
So I get gout.
Oh god, that doctor. Oh my gosh, made me so mad. He said I had gout.
That's
like what
so
the
funny.
hell? A doctor said I had gout when I had a tendon strain, and Kelly Starrett was like, "You don't have gout. You have a tendon strain." I was just like, "This guy, your first thing you told me I had gout after the X-ray. You said I had gout."
He's like, it says here you're a pirate and you're out at sea for long periods of time. I think you got gout.
That made me so mad.
Drink water, get more sleep.
That's it.
Take us on out of here,
Perfect
Andrew.
recipe. Thank you everybody for checking out the live stream. Shout out to Mike O'Hearn. Shout out to Big J. He missed it. Everybody else on the live chat, Big Red Jeff, I know that was you behind the 1s and 2s on the computer, so thank you for hanging out with us today as well. Please follow the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on TikTok and Twitter. Again, today's episode is brought to you by Merrick Health. Head over to merrickhealth.com/Power Project. Promo code Power Project for $101 off of that Power Project panel. That's a lot of P's. My Instagram and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. Nsima, where you at?
Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, and Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Were you about to shoot that?
Shoot that.
You about to shoot that kratom?
Let me. The kratom I still have
Oh,
some.
you still
I
have some
drink.
left? Okay.
Okay, I don't have the camera over there, but
Let's see. I got 2. Or actually, you can
Free
make up for
throws.
your missed one here. Throw that guy.
Throw this guy.
so he makes the mess.
Oh!
Yeah,
in there.
no. See?
Hit the backboard and in.
Let's
Come on,
switch.
do the- do
I
this
get
for-
a lot of rim jobs.
Do this for the Bucks. That was pretty funny. A lot of rim jobs.
Oh, a little bit more tricep work in Nsima.
Ah!
Came up short just like the Suns.
Sorry, 1 second. I got it.
Nope.
End the show, please. Mark.
Want to throw some more shit over there?
Shut up. End the show.
Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell.